Well, the Biden administration is considering raising tariffs on some Chinese goods, including electric vehicles. That's according to a Wall Street Journal report. Biden has left roughly $300 million of Trump-era levies on Chinese goods in place as the administration's remained divided over trade policy with China. As part of that policy, electric vehicles from the world's second largest economy are already subject to a 25% tariff. The Journal also reports that a bipartisan group of U.S. lawmakers requested last month that Biden hike tariffs on Chinese-made vehicles and investigate ways to prevent Chinese firms from exporting to the U.S. from Mexico. Also on that list of Chinese-made goods that could be subject to further tariffs, solar products and EV battery packs. Joining us now on the potential impact, we've got Yahoo Finance senior columnist Rick Newman. Rick, I saw the headline this morning out of the Journal. First question, why now?
I think because there's a lot of anticipation that there could be this influx of fully assembled electric vehicles from China or from Chinese manufacturers that are building those someplace else, such as in Mexico. So important to point out here, there are very few Chinese-made cars imported to the United States today. There are a couple. There's a Lincoln branded SUV. There's a Buick branded SUV that are made over there. There's a Polestar, which is made over there. I think Polestar actually is building a U.S. factory so that it can make them here. So there are not very many fully manufactured cars coming into the United States from China now, but China builds tons of cars and tons of electric cars, and the domestic market is not big enough to support all the cars they make. So there's a real heavy effort inside China to develop export markets. They are selling them to Europe, lots of other places around the world, South America, and it seems like only a matter of time until those cars start to arrive in the United States. So that would be a real concern for auto workers here and for all the communities that depend on American-made cars, because Chinese cars, like all Chinese products, would be considerably cheaper. So that's where this idea about adding additional tariffs on these cars is coming from. There's a trade-off here, which is that if you got lots of really cheap electric vehicles into the United States, it would be a faster transition away from fossil fuels because more people would be able to afford electric cars. It's same with solar panels, but then you would probably be losing U.S. production. So this is a tricky issue for the Biden administration to figure out.
Rick, the interesting wrinkle here for the potential for tariffs on batteries EV batteries coming in from China. What would be the impact on a car company like Tesla, particularly with the CATL batteries they have?
Well, Tesla makes batteries in China too. They make them for the Chinese market, and all the automakers are trying to figure this out. So there has been some controversy with Ford, for example, that wants to build a U.S. factory but partner with a Chinese company that simply has the expertise in electric batteries and EV components that Ford needs. So again, this is two-sided. If you rely on Chinese companies, well, they're getting a cut of U.S. business, and that runs contrary to one thing Biden is trying to do, which is develop more robust U.S. supply chains and add union jobs at those factories. But on the other hand, it's just expensive to develop all this stuff domestically here in the United States when the technology is already being built at scale in China for a lot cheaper than we can do it. It's just more expensive to do it that way, and it will slow the adoption because a big chunk of that added cost goes to consumers, and electric vehicles are, at the moment are considerably more expensive than gas-powered ones. One reason a lot of people probably don't want to buy one is they're just more expensive. So two sides here, protecting jobs in U.S. supply chains while also speeding the adoption of technology. They're kind of in conflict with each other.
Yeah, Rick, that points to the tricky balance the administration's really had to juggle. Something you just touched on here, bringing manufacturing back to the U.S. If, in fact, this policy, as the Journal has laid out, does come to fruition, how much of this you think is about bringing manufacturing back to the U.S.? How much of it is about holding off competition coming in from China, as you point out, as they have seen some of these car makers position themselves in places like Mexico, knowing that they're going to be selling, if they were able to, in the U.S. at a cheaper price point?
Yeah, we are in a new era of protectionism. I think this got started under President Donald Trump, and it has continued under President Joe Biden. It was different back in the George W. Bush and the Obama years. What has changed since then is China is no longer viewed as a capitalist partner that might be headed toward democracy someday. It doesn't look that way. China is very protectionist in its own right. It is harnessing elements of capitalism to further the aims of a pretty hardline communist government. So China has lost friends in the United States. And I think protectionism of this sort is here to stay. Again, it's a balance, because the more protectionist you are, prices go up. I mean, that is inflationary because it just costs more to build stuff here in the United States with American labor, and it impedes the ability of businesses to produce stuff where they can do it the cheapest. So it is inflationary, and we know how scarring inflation can be for a lot of consumers, because we just went through 2 years of very high inflation that really pushed President Biden's approval rating into the basement. So this is just going to be an interesting balancing act, but I think this is the new normal. I think this certain degree of protectionism is here to stay.
Yeah, Rick, also worth noting that this is coming ahead of a very big election year with both parties looking to highlight that they can be tough on China. So Interesting conversation to watch. Rick Newman, as always, thanks so much.
Yeah, Kiko.